Is it possible to reduce pain which we suffer? If this question is asked, then I would say yes is the answer. Of course, without tablets. Let's see how it is done. It is natural that when there is pleasure, there has to be pain also. Both pain and pleasure is experienced by all. We experience two types of pain felt by the body, and the other pain felt by the mind. Pain is felt by the body when there is an injury or a result of any disease, etc. Similarly, pain is felt by the mind when somebody criticizes us, demise of our beloved, when we quarrel with others, etc. Of course, both body and mind have an effect on the other. Both of them are unavoidable. Now you see the picture of pain. On the left side, you see the pain felt with the mind like a lion, and pain felt with the body is like a rat. The total pain equal to pain felt with the mind plus pain felt with the body. Now, there is a third category of pain we experience due to unnecessary worries, fear, misunderstanding, suspicion, jealousy, love disappointment, uh, over passion, and so many other factors which are avoidable. The pain we experience in life due to this category is much more than genuine pain we suffer. A small amount of spiritual progress can do a lot in overcoming this. When we can control our mind, all the pain of the mind due to both genuine and unwanted reasons subsides. We know that we feel body pain only when the mind is attached with the body. That means we do not feel any pain when we are in a deep sleep or unconscious stage when mind is detached with the body. So realized souls can easily detach their mind with the body at will, and hence they will not feel the body pain also if they desire so. Hence, when truth is realized, you can conquer pain. Leave alone realization with a minimal effort of meditation on a continual basis for say 3 months, one can minimize pain due to avoidable reasons. Now, as ordinary people, we must understand that nature has given pain, that is body pain, in order to forewarn that something is going wrong inside our body. It is a symptom to take early action to contain damage. As a matter of fact, it is a boon to have pain when something is going wrong inside than no pain. We may agree that painful heart attack is better than painless heart attack. The picture there shows satisfaction or dissatisfaction with a caption, remember, we are neither too small nor too big. Satisfaction or dissatisfaction is also a state of mind. Whether we are satisfied or not do to some extent depend on external factors, but largely depends on internal factors. Though it is important what we are, it is more important what we are looking at or what our perspective is. You see the picture of perspective. You see the hen which can fly up to some height. Then there is bee which can fly at a greater height. Then you can see a bird which still flies higher, and you see the vulture which can fly very high. So there is also a caption, what your perspective is. Now We must always remember that we are neither too small nor too big. We are big when we compare ourselves with the smaller, and we are smaller when we compare ourselves with the bigger ones. Naturally, when we look at smaller side, we get satisfaction that we are better, and we get unhappiness or dissatisfaction when we look at the bigger side. Everyone has past, present, and future. We all know that we can do nothing about the past. Naturally, when we can do nothing about the past, it is better to compare with the smaller and draw solace. It is definitely a better way for a better living. When it comes to present and future, they both are in our hands, and we have definitely a lot to do and a lot can be done. So, for the present and future, it is always better to look at the bigger side and draw inspiration, set goals, and plan life ahead. We should not look at small when we are planning for our future. This way of looking at past, present, and future can hasten one's life without much of extremes, both in happiness and sorrow, and also prevents loss of hope. It leads to growth but not greed, ending mad race for unethical means of making wealth at any cost. Also, it gives solace when we have to face a miserable failure. We all know that success and failure are the two sides of the same coin, and also that failure is a stepping stone for success. Understanding this philosophy, that we are neither too small nor too big also leads to solution for many of the social evils we face today throughout the world. You see the picture of controlled mind. You see on the left side, a person meditating, and on the extreme right, it is Almighty. In the center, you see, on the bottom, it's a stone block, and the top one is a bridge. So, what you see there is a controlled mind can act as a bridge for the individual to reach God, whereas an uncontrolled mind can act as a roadblock for the liberation process. We have seen that it is the mind which separates the individual soul and the cosmic soul. Also, this mind is flexible and can be conditioned by us. We know that the goal of individual soul is to merge with the universal soul, which we call it as moksha or mukti. By this, we will be coming out of the bondage of life and death. Much depends on how we control our mind. A controlled mind will cooperate and act as a bridge for the individual soul to reach cosmic soul. At the same time, an uncontrolled mind can give all the resistance and act as a roadblock. We must treat the mind as a friend and not as an enemy. We must listen to it before making it listen to us. We must be a master of our mind and not the other way. We must tame the mind to reach the ultimate goal, and must not allow mind to destroy our goal. These are all some of the precautions to be taken while controlling the mind. Now, we also see evils to overcome in the picture there. Lust leads to time wasters, sex problems, absenteeism. Greed leads to corruption, power struggle, and high turnover. Jealousy leads to abuse, murmuring, lack of concentration. Ego leads to overconfidence, domination, suppression. Laziness leads to inefficiency, sleep, disturbing others. Anger leads to quarrel, vengeance, non cooperation. Suspicion leads to irritation, spying, strained relations. So, these are some of the evils to overcome. Uh, Check up whether you have the key, which is your own mind, to overcome those evils. Check it up if you have the key with you. We have completed mind in detail. Now we are entering into buddhi, that is intelligence. Uh, you see the icon there. This picture is taken to represent buddhi or intelligence. Now you see the picture below discriminating good and bad. We know that swan has the capability of separating water and milk. Oh, so, like a swan which has the capability to separate milk and water, buddhi or intelligence has the capability to discriminate between good and bad. This feature is unique to human beings and is a gift given by God. Why we have to discriminate between good and bad are obvious but needs more details. We have heard the concept called cause and effect. The concept says that any cause will have an effect and that any effect will have a root cause behind. This is a universal truth as our birth, which is an effect, is the result of all the causes we are responsible for. A cause produces an action, and the action results in either happiness or misery to other life. So, for your action, there has to be a reaction to you in order to complete the cycle. We have studied the famous third law of great scientist Sir Isaac Newton, which says that the action and reaction are equal in magnitude and opposite in direction. This is true in spirituality also. If your action results in happiness to other life, the same happiness has to come back to you by way of an effect. Same way, it applies to misery also. This is the rule of nature, or rather, rule of God, and nobody is an exception to it. One may be smart enough to escape the rule of justice in this world, but the same is never possible in the kingdom of God, as the information about the deeds performed by us are stored within our consciousness. You see the picture, nature's gift, that is singing of a nightingale, dancing of a peacock, color changing of chameleon, and smile of human beings. We know the smile of human beings is a rare phenomena which is unique to only human beings. So keep smiling to see smiling on other faces. Now it is for us to decide whether we have to perform good deeds or bad deeds. In case if we decide to perform bad deeds, the same will come back to us at a later date and we must be ready to face the consequences. So it is a boon for us to have the capability of discrimination between good and bad, and we are held responsible for what we have chosen and what combination of good and bad we have chosen. You see in the picture intelligence manifestation, that is life forms with the evolution of one sense and various levels up to human being who has sixth sense also. So we will dwell upon that picture. Generally, we enjoy life through our senses and mind. All the pleasures of our life are attached to one or more of our senses and mind. From lower level being to higher level being, we see the number of senses increases and also the senses are more evolved. More number of senses means more avenues for enjoyment. No doubt that some of the animals have developed greater sense perception based on the survival needs of their life. For example, a vulture has a highly developed vision capability, and bears have high smelling ability, etc. It is a frequent observation that several people have seen and reported abnormal or strange behavior of animals prior to occurrence of natural calamities. Scientific studies are going to know whether some of the animals have extrasensory perception, that is called ESP. When we see beautiful scenery, our eye enjoys, and at the same time, when we see something very ugly, our sense of eye reacts too. So, senses can lead us to both enjoyment and also suffering. When we see a movie, our eyes, ears, both of them enjoy, and we often try to enjoy through tongue also by eating or drinking while watching the movie. The most powerful act where all the five senses enjoy is the act of lovemaking. These senses are external instruments and coupled with corresponding nerve centers in the brain, and the communication is established to the mind. The brain acts as a coordinator between mind and senses. We perceive the outside world through these senses only. These senses are gross, and the corresponding nerve centers in the brain are finer, and the mind is still finer or subtle. So, it is an interaction which takes place between gross, fine, gross, and it goes on. If we wish to see our internal nature, we have to draw these senses inwards through spiritual practices. When the mind is detached from the senses, it is tamed as there is no disturbance from outside, and relatively we start to see or hear or feel our inner nature. The inner nature is dearer to us, and once we start experiencing the inner pleasure, our temptation for the worldly pleasures start diminishing slowly, and the mind starts accepting our command. Bound by senses, we live by what we are. What we have seen, smelt, heard, tasted, and perceived through senses is our little world, and we live by that. Also, the memories, experiences, natural and acquired habits form part of our little world. No doubt, this individual world is important to us, but it is a small circle. We can continue to live in it as long as we are contented with it. But at some point of time or other, we have to move to the larger circle of the world in pursuit of truth. The picture you see there, bound by senses, I can only see what my eyes can see. I can only smell what my nose can smell. I can only hear what my ears can hear. I can only taste what my tongue can taste. I can only perceive what my skin can perceive. Also, the caption shatter the shield of Maya to go beyond the senses. We will deal upon this. We know our senses are limited and range bound. Because they are gross, there is not much flexibility to change. For example, we cannot increase our vision capability without the help of external aids such as telescope or microscope or night vision goggles, etc., and they are not in the reach of everybody. This holds good for brain also, as it is made of gross material. In other words, we are limited beings. In the picture, you see only vision is taken for this reference. In the leftmost picture, column of the picture, you see there are various vision ranges like the radio waves, short horizon waves, infrared rays, visible spectrum, ultraviolet rays, X rays, gamma rays, and cosmic rays. So, we can only see in the visible spectrum, which is a small band in the entire range. That means we are range bound in a variety of characteristics like this. The variety of characteristics you can see there: vision, smell, hearing, taste, skin perception, temperature, pressure, energy, and knowledge. Also, a caption: Maya makes us limited beings while we are truly not. Looking at our mind, it is made of subtle material and has flexibility. It does not have space constraint like senses and brain. It can freely expand depending on our thinking capability. So, we have to use this capability to go beyond our little circle. The more mind expands, it opens up more compartments in the brain under its command to store the thoughts and experiences. As a result, the brain has more information stored and results in more knowledge. This can happen both in the physical plane and in the spiritual plane depending on where your focus is. But then we have to see what true knowledge is. Knowledge which changes over a period of time is not true knowledge. For example, at some point of time, humanity believed that Earth is at the center of the universe. It was accepted as true at that point of time, but later it has been proved that it is not true. The concept of universe is also constantly changing over a period of time with the revelations of expanding universe and acknowledging the presence of dark matter and dark energy. It will continue to change as more and more sophisticated aids of vision and techniques are developed. But look at the spiritual knowledge or knowledge of the absolute truth. It is never changing. For centuries, we are taught the same thing about the absolute, though approaches may vary depending on their frame of mind and walk of life. It is like different people describing about the sun. Irrespective of description, the sun remains the same and all descriptions belong to him. It will not change in future also because absolute is changeless. That only is the real knowledge which will change our internal. You see the picture of mind and buddhi. Buddhi acts as a dam to check the flow of the thoughts of the mind. Ensure Buddhi holds an upper hand always over mind. We have so many desires rushing into our mind, and Buddhi checks the flow. When the desires are good, it does not offer any resistance, but if they are bad, it tries to stop these desires from being converted into actions. But the intensity and power of the desire sometimes makes the mind ignore the warning of Buddhi and can make it perform action. Once action is performed, the principle of cause and effect takes over. We can experience that when we make a mistake for the first time, we repent so much for our action. It is a constant struggle that goes on between buddhi and mind. Initially, the mind dominates buddhi by ignoring its warning, since the intensity of the desire is very high. But once the desire is fulfilled, at least for that moment, then the power of desire subsides, then the same mind repents for its action. That means it is a tussle between desire and buddhi acting on the same mind at different points of time. That is why one must have a strong mind and a strong buddhi to overcome the power of bad desires in the first instance. But when we commit the same mistake for the second time, the repentance comes down, and when we start committing these mistakes again and again, it is taken for granted and buddhi does not react much. This is according to law of diminishing utility, and it holds good for reaction also. That means buddhi is suppressed and mind is in complete control of the bad desires. You see the picture there on the diminishing trend. See, this is regarding appetite coming down with first apple, second and third. Pride of achievement coming down with the first child, and then second and third, the pride comes down, and happiness comes down with the time when you are enjoying pleasures, same pleasure, and fear comes down with more deeds. With the caption, fear not doing good things, dare not for doing bad things. We will dwell upon this picture. Suppose we are terribly hungry and we are given an apple to eat, we derive so much of happiness while eating the same. Suppose we are given a second apple to eat immediately, we may take it, but we do not get the same amount of happiness as the first apple. Let us assume that a third apple is given for eating immediately. Instead of deriving happiness, we may feel averse to eating the same. This is what is called a law of diminishing utility. We see that parents derive so much pride of achievement in having their first child compared to their second one. In the same way, fear also comes down with more and more misdeeds we perform. Buddhi is a discriminatory power given to us, and if it is suppressed continuously, we are likely to end up losing our control of the senses. We have completed the detail of buddhi. Now we are going to see soul in detail. You see the icon there, that icon picture is taken to represent the soul. Now there exists another entity which is non-material and which is fundamental to life. This finest and the most subtle one is called soul of an individual. While material undergoes changes all through the life, the soul never changes and exists forever. Generalizing this, every life is made of material and non material to form different forms of existence, such as man, monkey, bird, etc. Every life requires certain favorable conditions for existence, such as temperature, pressure, availability of oxygen, etc. God has defined the mechanisms with which each life works and also the designed period of sustenance along with conditions favorable for its sustenance. You see the picture of manifestation of life. In the picture, you see there are cosmos pictures, miniature life pictures, and compound life pictures. Cosmos pictures only there exists only matter and energy, whereas both miniature life and compound life pictures matter, energy, and consciousness exist. There is a consciousness is an addition to matter and energy. So life is a combination of material and consciousness. Prior to formation of life known to us, history of universe says that cosmos existed for a very long time. Cosmos was only material prior to formation of life on earth. Consciousness and material existed separately all through the universe. Though they have very high degree of affinity to combine together, they did not have the right conditions to form life. Over a period of very long time, when favorable conditions started emerging, life has started in the primitive form and slowly evolved according to Darwin theory. From cosmos, miniature life started, that is single cell, and gradually compounded and compound life has emerged. We, being limited, we have limitation to know whether life exists or existed away from Earth anywhere in the cosmos. There has to be a logic to explain why there has to be a combination. Everything in this world we see is a combination of gross and fine. Let us take a computer for example. There is a hardware and there is software. Without software, the hardware of computer cannot be useful, and without hardware, software cannot express itself. But both combined, it can do wonders. Hardware is gross and software is fine, and one needs the other. Similarly, material of our body, being insentient, cannot recognize itself, and consciousness, being immaterial, cannot apparently express itself. Hence, one needs another for self recognition and express ourself. Life of human being is attributed with very less material compared to cosmos and very high level of consciousness. Since every life has a mechanism to work with, the life built with the superior mechanism has a say in this universe compared with lower ones. That is the reason the mechanism of human existence is termed the most coveted of all. Only this mechanism has intelligence of the highest order among life on earth. When all life is created by so called God, he must be accessible to all life forms. If God is at a distance, some people may not be able to make it. If it costs money to see God, poor people cannot go to Him. If God wants to see His devotees with coconuts, flowers, and other puja material, it may not be available at some places. Then God becomes accessible to some and inaccessible to some others. If that is the case, then He is not God and He is something else. So, God resides in each of the life form within and expects nothing from His devotees, including His remembrance. It is obvious that a question may be asked where the soul is. We can see the body, feel the mind, recognize what are good and bad. That is, even a hardcore criminal who is going to indulge in a criminal act knows that he is doing a bad deed. But where is the soul? Until science and technology has developed to see an atom and make collision or fusion, it was not known that a vast quantum of energy is hidden in the nucleus, that is matter. You will never know that fire is hidden in a matchstick unless you strike it or you have seen it or been informed about it. It was said that fire was made by accident when it was first discovered. Just because it was not seen or discovered does not mean fire was non existent till then. Whether we know about it or not, fire was in existence all the time. Same thing is true with gravity also. Just because we have not seen it or perceived it, it does not mean it is not there. You see the picture, hidden potential. That means energy is hidden in matter, fire is hidden in a matchstick, lightning is hidden in clouds, knowledge is hidden in mind. So, strike the hidden light of knowledge with your will, is the caption given there. You need both knowledge and instrument to see or feel anything which is hidden. Night vision is made possible with adequate knowledge through research and development of equipment. Until then, night vision was not possible. In the same way, in order to find the highest truth, which is superfine material, we have to work for it sometimes through ages and many births of constant struggle. We know it is the mind which is used to make all inventions and discoveries, and the beauty is that in order to find the light of soul, we have to conduct research on mind itself, on how to use the same mind effectively for the purpose. Here lies the difficulty in discovering the soul within. It is strongly believed that thought generation is an act of mind rather than brain. In other words, we mean to say we have to conduct research on mind itself using the same mind, which is a very difficult task. Each one of us prays to unravel the hidden potential in us and presumably lead us to righteousness. Even though every life is leading its life under sustenance, the unseen force provides all the conditions for existence and guides us all the time. There is any number of things for which humanity does not have answers. What happens after death? This universe has been in existence even before rudimentary life has started, and if that is the case, then who created this universe in which solar system is a tiny particle? how a single cell which formed at the time of fertilization developed in intelligence to multiply and form human body with various organs and organ systems. Where from this intelligence has come and who has provided this intelligence? How has the tree developed intelligence to leave seeds behind with all the protection and nutrition? There are many questions like this for which we do not have answers. We may give some explanations, name some of them, but we do not have answers. Our sages have clearly demonstrated that you cannot find proof of soul outside, and it can only be visualized internally through intense spiritual practices. The great Gautama Buddha, whom we call as Karana Janmudu, that is a person who is born to liberate people, has spent 6 years in search of truth before enlightenment. Like we cannot measure the quantum of water in the sea with a pot, a person cannot see the soul without spiritual advancement. That too, it can only be seen with not our normal eyes but with our third eye, that is Manonetram. Our role in sustenance phase. In this, it is this sustenance phase we come across with all dualities such as good, bad, love, hated, and pain, pleasure, etc. To mention a very few. It is in this sustenance phase we live our life. So, it is very important to choose how we live, though we have to choose among all challenges and circumstances in life. First and foremost is our survival, and naturally we have to work for it. The second comes our well being at all stages of life with fulfillment of responsibilities to all who share our life. Third is to see that all our dependents live a comfortable life in our presence and absence. While we traverse through various stages of life, we are compelled to choose between good and bad acts in order to fulfill our needs and also desires. You know that our deeds brings us the resultant effect which is called karma. That is why our earth is called karma bhumi. There is good karma and bad karma associated with good, that is moral or dharma, and bad, immoral or adharma deeds or acts. We know that we start the journey from God's abode and finally conclude our journey and reach back God's abode. This is like we go on a tour from our house, enjoy and suffer. Suffer means difficulties faced during the tour, and return back to our house with experiences and memories of the tour. In the same way, our journey is continuous with birth and death in varied life forms, and during this, we perform various good deeds and also bad deeds, thereby gaining varied experiences. We conclude the journey at the time of liberation. We see that it has become a fashion these days that there are people performing all kinds of misdeeds, and to nullify the effect of the same they perform penance and good deeds for a short period. No doubt that it helps them to get a glimpse of the effect of performing good deeds and penance, but it is a mirage to think that the effect of bad deeds are washed off by performing good deeds. They do not cancel out each other, and both types of effects are to be experienced uniquely. This is the case as far as effect is concerned. So to say, that cumulative effect of bad deeds decide the nature of next birth, and cumulative effect of good deeds decides the level of comfort in the next birth. You see the picture, good deeds versus bad deeds. So, as the picture says, the bad deeds is a cumulative of bad deeds, that is, n is equal to 1 to current birth, n is birth number decides the nature of next birth. Same way, cumulative of bad deeds, that is from first birth to the current birth, decides comfort in that birth. And finally, n is equal to 1 to liberation, good deeds is equal to 0, n is equal to 1 to liberation, bad deeds is equal to 0. That means to say that at the time of liberation, you neither have effect of good deeds nor have effect of bad deeds. It has to be 0 in both cases. Also, there is a caption, only that is ours which we earn. At liberation, an enlightened soul has effectively nullified the effects of both good and bad deeds. Soul has started with zero balance, and liberated soul also should have zero balance. At liberation, desires and ego also vanish simultaneously.